Right? We begin a new book. Hey! Deuteronomy. Oh, Devarim. And in English it means words, but we'll have a look at that. Deuteronomy actually comes from two words, one word meaning two, and nomos, the word for law. It's kind of like get the law again. There's a lot of commandments that are repeated. Now, so far in Numbers we had like basically all the trials and tribulations and all the tests and all that caper, but now the focus changes. The focus is not on the journey, it's on where we're headed. And it's also, this is Moses' last 36 days of his life. So during this time, this is his final addresses. The time frame is approximately 1273 BC. The book contains speeches, teachings, a prophetic song, and after all this, Moses passes away. It's 30 days of mourning, and then 3 days after that, the River Jordan parts and they go across to the Promised Land. It's quite bizarre, isn't it? Because some of the books, Genesis covers like massive big time periods, epochs of time. We've got it's almost a year covered by Leviticus. It's just over 38 years covered by the book of Numbers. This is all done within 36 days. And there's a big change as well. 36 days, yeah. There's a big change, and it's all to do with, in the first 4 books, what you tend to get is Moses, he's writing as like, basically he's like a narrator. He's talking on behalf of the Lord. This book he speaks in his own words. And so we go from, and the Holy One spoke to Moses, saying, to this time in the first person. At that time the Holy One said to me. So we get it in Moses' perspective, and if you consider that he lived for 40 years speaking face to face with Jehovah, it's quite an interesting perspective, isn't it? Because obviously he's got an insight that not many people get. Now, with regards to the Hebrew meaning of the word Devarim, basically translated as words, but it can also translate as things, which is a bit odd because in English things and words are completely separate things. So already we've come across a difference in the mindset. So if we take a look at the Hebrew word Devarim, the root word is debar, and it means setting in a row, arranging in proper order, and it can cover basically any purposefully creative act, singing a song, I don't know, putting things out in an order, all kinds of different things. Now, there's a good way of looking at this. There's a word that's very similar, and it's the word for the bee, Devarim. If you look at bees, you think about it, everything that a bee does has got a purpose and it's creative. They don't just mess about for the sake of messing about. There's always something constructive going on with bees. And as they mess about and do what they're doing, they kind of epitomise this process of debarring. In other words, this using of words, which actually has got a purpose. So what we can ask is, when does words function like things and things function like words? How do you get them to marry up? And it's when one speaks words, doing the things and being purposefully creative. And it's using words in such a way to provoke actions to bring about a dramatic change. That's what the Torah is all about, isn't it? The Torah, the word, is words that basically they shape our lives and they bring about a dramatic change. And the thing to remember is, although they're just words, the whole idea is that they're to provoke action on our behalf. Now, in one of the commentaries there's 4 different ways of describing what Devarim are. Devarim are words backed up by action that carry not only a buzz, going back to the thing about the bees, that gets and holds the hearer's attention, but also a sweet initial flavour that stirs up the hearer's appetite. It carries a stinger that makes the hearer think and act differently as a result of the encounter. These aren't just words that are thrown out there, these are very important, powerful words. The words that carry tangible weight, they bring about a tangible reaction. Something actually happens as a result of these words. Devarim are words accompanied by actions that are totally consistent with the words spoken. So you know that thing where you get people who'll say one thing and do another? That's not Devarim. Devarim are not doctrinal statements, doctrines, dogmas, creeds. They're much, much more substantive than that. Devarim have a marvellous combination of words that really talk the talk with a series of actions. You cannot take the words away from the actions. The whole idea that the West has is the Word of God is something to be read. But to a Hebrew mindset, the Word of God is something to be done and experienced and lived. Are you with me? Not something just to be read and thought about. It's something to be actually done. Now, before we go any further into the reading, I'll just point out, because it's worth noting, that when this particular portion is read, it's known as Shabbat Shazon, and it's the Sabbath immediately preceding the day when some of the worst disasters in Hebrews history has ever happened. It's the 9th of Av. Now, it's when the first and second temples were destroyed. Expulsion from England, France, Spain, and lots of different tragedies happened around this time. So there tends to be, especially obviously in Israel, there always seems to be bad things happening around this time. And people, generally speaking, recognise this time as a time of reflecting on the disasters that have befell the whole history of them as a race. And somebody just pointed out, when does disaster strike? And says this: it's always when Jehovah's people fail to shema him, that's fail to trust him and to obey him. That's always when the disasters strike. Exactly what's happening here. So we'll move on to Deuteronomy 1, the beginning. We should be excited because it is Moses' perspective. It says here, "These be the words which Moses spake unto all Israel on this side of Jordan in the wilderness, in the plain over against the Red Sea, between Paran, Tophel, Laban, and Hazeroth, and Dizahab." Right. First thing to note is it says Moses spoke to all of Israel. Now, that means us, doesn't it? So this is all something that we should take on board. And another thing that's worth noting is that when Moses spoke, it was actually Torah. He spoke Torah. These are the words that he spoke, and they're actually in the books. He spoke Torah. Now, in Deuteronomy 18:15, we've got something here which Moses said. He says, "The Lord thy God will raise up unto thee a prophet from the midst of thy brethren, like unto me. Unto him you shall hearken." He's talking about Yeshua, and he's saying Yeshua is going to be just like me. Now, what did Moses do? Moses spoke, and he spoke Torah. Yeshua, when he came along, what did he do? He spoke Torah, because everything he did was Torah, because he was Torah. So when we read through this, bear in mind it says, "One is coming like unto me." This is Moses' words, and he's talking about our Messiah. Right, so this book basically is it's almost like a renewal of the laws. It's a reminder. And you can ask yourself, why is he doing this now? It's because the people are about to go through the Jordan. They're about to get mikvahd, as it were, ready to go in to possess the land that's been promised to them. And it's a time for them to reflect on, these are your past mistakes. Please don't repeat them, that would be very foolish. And let's have a little recall of the laws we're to live by, because if we live by them, that's how we get blessed. Now, he starts off in the first verse there on a bit of a grab your attention-y type note, because all the places he mentions are places that have negative connotations attached to them. So he's basically saying, I know you lot, I know what you've been up to, and I know where you've been at. Now, if we look at it, the Red Sea, right, that's not necessarily a negative place, but it's a powerful place, and he's got their attention straight away, because we know what happened there. Pharaoh basically lost his life, and the soldiers who were following them, basically wiped out. The people were redeemed and set free. But then you've got Haran, and that's where they started complaining about the manna. And it's also where there was the sin of the quail. Then you also had the sin of the spies. Then they had Korah's rebellion, and finally the bit where the people cried out, "You've killed the people of the Holy One." And in Tophel is a place where they basically, covering up deep problems, put a veneer of spirituality over them. We know people like that, don't we? They'll just pretend to be, oh yeah, no. And you just think, this is all gobbledygook. And it's all done as some kind of like trying to cover stuff up. I was laughing the other day because Bobby phoned me up early in the morning. Don't mind me mentioning his name. And he said, "I just wanted to say something to you, Charles." And I said, "Okay." He's never done this before ever, so I thought this is bizarre. And it was early in the morning, and he doesn't get up early. I was like, "What is going on?" And he said something to me. It wasn't an awe-inspiring thing. He said enough, and I said, "Oh, right." He said, "I just really felt it, that I had to say this to you." And I said, "Why is what? Were you in prayer or something like that?" "No." I just thought it was great. No pretense of, "Yeah, no, I was just having a quiet moment with the Lord," or anything like that. He just said, "No, don't be slow." So Bobby definitely doesn't relate to the sin that happened at Tophel. Now, at Levan there was the whiteness of Miriam's skin when she was struck with Zerat for a negative speech against Moses. Chatzeret was the stop after the sin of the quail. Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moses. The last place, Dizahaz, that means too much gold, and that just reminded them of the sin of the golden calf. So he started off with a few real blockbuster things to get their attention. Right, okay, yeah, he knows his inside out, this fella. He's been with us all the way, he's seen his warts and all. Now, as we move on, verse 2 says, "There are 11 days' journey from Horeb by way of Mount Seir unto Kadesh Barnea. And it came to pass in the 40th year, in the 11th month, on the first day of the month, that Moses spake unto the children of Israel according to all that Jehovah had given him in commandment unto them. After he had slain Sihon the king of the Amorites, which dwell in Heshbon, and Og the king of Bashan, which dwelt in Ashtaroth in Edrei, on this side of the Jordan, in the land of Moab, began Moses to declare this law, saying, Jehovah our God spake unto us in Horeb, saying, Ye have dwelt long enough in this mount." So he gets your attention first off, and then he reveals to us that after 11 months at Sinai, the God basically says to him, "You've just been sitting around for far too long. This is just ridiculous now." So basically, there is a limit to how long we can sit there and be inactive, because as I said before, just by nature of the word Devarim, it means words and it means things. The word is supposed to invoke action. So the Torah is not just something to do and to receive and to listen to. It's something that you do. It's something that you actually actively get up and experience and live. So if we move on to verse 7, says, "Turn you and take your journey and go to the mount of the Amorites, and unto all the places nigh thereunto, in the plain, in the hills, and in the vale, and in the south, and by the seaside, to the land of the Canaanites, and unto Lebanon, unto the great river, the river Euphrates. Behold, I have set the land before you. Go in and possess the land which Yahweh sware unto your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to give unto them, and to their seed after them. And I spake unto you at that time, saying, I am not able to bear you myself alone. Jehovah your God hath multiplied you, and behold, you are this day as the stars of heaven for multitude. Jehovah God of your fathers make you 1,000 times so many more as you are, and bless you as he have promised you. How can I myself alone bear your cumbrance and your burden and your strife? Take you wise men and understanding, and known among your tribes, and I will make them rulers over you. And you answered me and said, The thing which thou hast spoken is good for us to do. So I took the chief of your tribes, wise men and known, and made them heads over you, captains over thousands, captains over hundreds, captains over 50s, and captains over 10s, and officers among your tribes. And I charged your judges at that time, saying, Hear the causes between your brethren, and judge righteously between every man and his brother, and the stranger that is with him. You shall not respect persons in judgment. That's exactly what the Lord says, doesn't he? He's no respecter of persons as well. But ye shall hear the small as well as the great. You shall not be afraid of the face of man, for the judgment is Jehovah's. And the cause that is too hard for you, bring it unto me, and I will hear it. And I commanded you at that time all the things which you should do. And when you departed from Horeb, we went through all that great and terrible wilderness, which ye saw by the way of the mountain of the Amorites, as Jehovah our God commanded us. And we came to Kadesh Barnea. And I said unto you, You are come unto the mountain of the Amorites, which Jehovah our God doth give unto us. Behold, Jehovah thy God hath set the land before thee. Go up and possess it, as Jehovah God of thy fathers had said unto thee. Fear not, neither be discouraged. And ye came near unto me every one of you, and said, We will send men before us, and they shall search us out the land, and bring us word again by which way we must go up, and into what cities we shall come. And the saying pleased me well, and I took 12 men of you, one of a tribe. And they turned and went up into the mountain, and came unto the valley of Eshcol, and searched it out. And they took the fruit of the land in their hands, and brought it down unto us, and brought us word again, and said, It is a good land which Jehovah our God doth give us. Notwithstanding, ye would not go up, but rebelled against the commandment of Jehovah your God. And ye murmured in your tents, and said, Because Jehovah hated us, he hath brought us forth out of the land of Egypt, to deliver us into the hand of the Amorites, to destroy us. Whither shall we go up? Our brethren have discouraged our hearts, saying, The people is greater and taller than we. The cities are great and walled up to heaven, and moreover we have seen the sons of the Anakims there. And I said unto you, Dread not, neither be afraid of them. Jehovah your God, which goeth before you, he shall fight for you, according to all that he did for you in Egypt before your eyes. And in the wilderness where thou hast seen how that Jehovah thy God bare thee, as a man doth bear his son, in all the way that he went, until he came into this place. Yet in this thing ye did not believe Jehovah your God, who went in the way before you, to search you out a place to pitch your tents in fire by night, to show you by which way you should go, and in a cloud by day. Now, if we go back to verse 28 there, it says, Whither shall we go up? These people, right, were commanded by Jehovah to go and possess the land. Now, they said, Oh, whither shall we go up? And we're going to compare that now with, in Ruth 1:16, Ruth said to, where is it? Yeah, Ruth said, Whither thou goest, I will go. Now, what's actually happened, that's Ruth 1:16. Yeah? These words have come to epitomise the basic commitment of a bride to a bridegroom. In other words, to go with him wherever he goes. Bear in mind our relationship with our Creator is that he's supposed to be our husband, right? And where to go, where he says to go. These people said, forget all that. Wherever you want to go, we're not actually going to bother. Now, Horeb was the place, wasn't it, where Israel basically became betrothed to Jehovah. It was the place basically where they said, Whither thou goest, we will go. So then they come up with a big test, don't they? This big test. What happens? They fail, don't they? Now the thing is, Jehovah's always asking us the same question. Do you mean it when you said, Whither I go, you will go? Are you prepared to come? Yeshua said it, didn't he? He said, You're going to come and follow me. Are you going to? Now, all through the scriptures we see these things, these tests. There was a test required of Abraham. He said, Are you going to come to a land that I'll show you? Come on, come this way. There was another one, wasn't there? There was Isaac, took him to the region of Moriah. Jacob took him to Paddan Aram, to the house of your mother's father, Bethuel, and he says, I am with you. So there's always encouragement as well, but he's always saying to his people, come on with me. He got Moses, didn't he? He said, I want you to come before the Pharaoh. Moses really wasn't into the idea. But the Lord always is saying, come on, this is where I'm going. Are you coming? Now, there's a lot of sins, isn't there, that we've gone through in the book of Numbers. There's all kinds of different junctures where we can say they blew it, they really done bad there. These people, how can they, it's just, don't they ever learn? But the worst thing that they did, the worst sin that they ever did, was the sin of the spies, when they said, we're not going to follow.
God had planned, isn't it? And the plan was never ever going to change.
No.
No matter what was going to happen.
No, well, the Lord knows everything, yeah. But for those people who basically said, whither thou goest, we're not going to go. That was where they blew it. And for one generation, they blew their rights basically as the Creator's bride. So that's something worth bearing in mind. And this is how he describes it, as we've read. Moses says this about the people's reaction to the report of the spies. But you would not go up. Instead, you rebelled against the direction of Jehovah your God. Not a good thing to do. Now, only a bride can go into a bridal chamber, and nobody, and one who will not go wherever thou goest cannot be a bride. Are you with me? So, if you want to be the bride, you've got to be prepared to go where the Lord tells you that he wants you to go. Now, it's quite horrible, isn't it, what they said as well? Because it says, in your tents you complained, it's only because Jehovah hated us that he's brought us out of the land of Egypt, only to hand us over to the Amorites to destroy us. What a ridiculous thing to say. You see how their lack of faith completely corrupted them. I mean, they were really amazingly redeemed. They were provided for all the way through this wilderness journey. And yet, at this moment in time, they decided to play the victims. He hates us. Why us? Why has he done this to us? Very strange. So they were victims of hate, apparently, instead of objects of perfect love. And I would just point out, that I don't know whether we do it as well. When we have, giants in the land, how do we see them? Do we see them as people marked out for God's judgment? Or do we see them as huge, big things that we just can't overcome? Well, there's various giants in everybody's life, isn't it? It doesn't necessarily have to be people with large feet. I don't know why I looked at JP when I said size 13 shoe, I don't know. But yeah, it's basically, if you look at the sin of the spies, the people really missed out on what the Lord had promised them. The punishment was they had to go into the wilderness, and that's where they died. So that generation passed away. So rebellion is usually what causes us to miss out on God's perfect will for our life. And the thing is, rebellion never gets blamed, does it? Never say, oh, it's because I was rebellious. We blame bad things that other people have done. It's because of so and so. Circumstances are a bit unfortunate. Well, what else were they supposed to do? Or the devil made me do it. What's an obvious one, isn't it? But this is human nature. And since you were a kid, you've probably at some point in your life learned to play the victim. Well, I don't blame you. It's always the finger goes out. That's the mentality, right? That makes you stuck in a desert, wandering about waiting to die, rather than on the banks of the Jordan, listening to the Torah with great delight, preparing yourself to go over into the things that God's promised for you. There's a big difference, isn't it?
We weren't told to sell the spies and
God told him to, yeah. Moses said it's alright if you send spies in, because he was probably just thinking, this is brilliant, yeah, come on, let's just go for it, yeah, woo. He didn't obviously realise they were going to come back and go, woo. Because once you hear the creator of the universe say, it's all yours folks, go and get it. Moses is obviously going, oh, it's great, it's a done deal. Well, it is, isn't it? It was just their rebellion that got them, I don't know, landed them in the desert dying. Anyway, it's interesting to note that The cause of the problem is not in the mind, the emotions, nor in circumstances. The problem is a problem of your heart. If this is your attitude and you're rebellious and you play the victim rather than grabbing hold of what God's promised, you've got a problem in your heart. There's only one way to fix that, and that's to get in touch with Him, isn't it? So the promised land, who does it belong to? It belongs to people who refuse to see themselves as victim, people who are overcomers, people who put their faith in the Lord, people who will go whither thou goest. I'm with you, I'm coming. They're the people. Even if it's tough and there's traumas and there's all these things going on, they're the people who find themselves walking across the Jordan into the promised land. And you've got to remember, nothing can stand before our Creator. And in the presence of His love, if that's where you run, see, there's different places you can run, isn't it? But if you run to Him, right, and you run to His love, there's no trauma, no victim mentality, there's nothing can stand in the presence of that love at all, because it washes all that nonsense out the way. And you come out of that bondage, because it's bondage, isn't it? You sit there and play the victim, and it doesn't get you anywhere. So what was the response of the people to this report that they got? It's because our God Jehovah hates us. Oh, is that right? These are the same people. See, this is the thing that's interesting. These are the same people, and this is a beautiful bit of the scripture. Dance to the beat of tambourines, right? They've just come out of the Red Sea. Pharaoh's just been destroyed. Oh, and these are the exact same people, right? And they've just, it's because He hates us. Oh, hang on. Do you remember what you were singing, not less than a year ago? Do you remember what you were singing then? And this is what they sang in Exodus 15, 13 to 17. To the Lord their God they sang, you in your loving kindness have led the people that you have redeemed. You have guided them in your strength to your holy habitation. The peoples have heard and they tremble. All the inhabitants of Canaan are melted away. Terror and dread falls on them. Because the greatness of your arm, they are as still as a stone, until your people pass over, O Holy One, until the people pass over whom you have purchased. You shall bring them in and plant them in the mountain of your inheritance, the place, O Holy One, which you have made for yourself to dwell in, the sanctuary, O Holy One, which your hands have established. And there they are, right here, later going, it's because He hates us. Just because they're rebellious, and it's a heart problem, isn't it? I just think that's something to bear in mind, isn't it? Now, what are they embracing? Self-pity. They're not embracing Jehovah, they're not embracing His promises, are they? So they're doing what? They're choosing to complain instead of to pray. They're choosing to walk in rebellion and bitterness rather than to run to Him, to submit to His will and to walk in His ways. Choices, everybody's got choices, and it's one of them things, isn't it? It's like, the scriptures show you examples of what happens if you do this, and the scripture shows you examples of what happens if you do this, and it never really goes well when you go away from the way God said you can do it. And it's all written there for us. The whole of the book of Numbers should be like that. Should be reading it and looking at it going, ooh, that was like me, ooh. Because it's there for us, it's for an example, isn't it? Now, do we search for someone else to blame, or do we own up to our own responsibility? See, there's always a way back with Jehovah, and that's quite simply, I'm sorry, I repent, I turn from that was nonsense. I'm not going to rebel anymore, I'm going to go where you've sent me. And play the victim for a while, you might win friends and favour and stuff, but it doesn't last. And Hebrews 3:7 says this, if you've read any of the scriptures and you think, oh, it's me, it says this, today if you hear His voice, harden not your heart. And then ask yourself, what song are you singing? It's because He hates us. Or are you singing, look at the great things that He's done. He's delivered me out of my sin. He's given me eternal life and a promise that I'll be with Him for all time. Wow. Or He's singing, it's because He hates me. What's going on? We do have a choice, don't we? So verse 34, moving on. It says, and Jehovah heard the voice of your words and was wroth and sware, saying, surely there shall not one of these men of this evil generation see that good land which I swear to give unto your fathers. Save Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, he shall see it, and to him will I give the land that he hath trodden upon, and to his children, because he hath wholly followed Jehovah. Note the word holy. And Jehovah was angry with me for your sake, saying, Thou also shalt not go in hither. But Joshua the son of Nun, which standeth before thee, he shall go in hither. Encourage him, for he shall cause Israel to inherit it. Excuse me, just a quick slug of routine. Moreover, your little ones, which he said should be afraid, and your children, which in that day had no knowledge between good and evil, they shall go in thither, and unto them will I give it, and they shall possess it. But as for you, turn you and take your journey into the wilderness by the way of the Red Sea. Then he answered and said unto me, We have sinned against Jehovah. We will go up and fight, according to all that Jehovah our God commanded us. And when ye had girded on every man his weapons of war, you were ready to go up into the hill. And Jehovah said unto me, Say unto them, Go not up, neither fight, for I am not among you, lest you be smitten before your enemies. So I spake unto you, and you would not hear, but rebelled against the commandment of Jehovah, and went presumptuously up into the hill. And the Amorites which dwelt in that mountain came out against you, and chased you as bees do, and destroyed you in Seir, even unto Hormah. And ye returned and wept before Jehovah, but Jehovah would not hearken to your voice, nor give ear unto you. Now that's chilling, isn't it? You returned and wept before Jehovah, but Jehovah would not hearken to your voice, nor give ear unto you. Why is that? Because they rebelled again against his commandments. So ye abode in Kadesh many days, according unto the days that ye abode there. Now, he's recalling all this because he's warning them before, they're going to go in. He doesn't want this generation to make the same mistakes as the last. Now, I want you to bear in mind that these people might have died in the wilderness, yeah? But what's worth mentioning is, despite all that, Jehovah met their needs all the way through the wilderness. He still provided manna. The sandals didn't wear out. He still looked after them, didn't he? Right, chapter 2, it says, Then we turned and took our journey into the wilderness by way of the Red Sea, as Jehovah spake unto me, and we compassed Mount Seir many days. And Jehovah spake unto me, saying, You've compassed this mountain long enough, turn you northward. Command thou the people, saying, Ye are to pass through the coast of your brethren, the children of Esau, which dwell in Seir, and they shall be afraid of you. Take ye good heed unto yourselves, therefore. Meddle not with them, for I will not give you of their land. No, not so much as a footbreadth, because I have given Mount Seir unto Esau for a possession. You shall buy meat of them for money, that you may eat, and you shall also buy water of them for money, that you might drink. The Lord thy God hath blessed thee in all thy works of thy hand. He knoweth thy walking through this great wilderness these 40 years. The Lord thy God hath been with thee. Thou hast lacked nothing. So we've got a warning here, haven't we? A real warning to the new generation against failing. To trust in the Lord and to obey and look as examples of what they did, and obviously avoid the mistakes. Now we've got some key phrases that I just want to go through. One is, you did not trust Jehovah your God. I want to get this word here. The word that's the English Bible translated trust or belief comes from the Hebrew word aman. It's actually where we get it's the Hebrew verb root of the word that we say in English, amen. Aman, and it's the Hebrew verb that we always get believe, and of course Greeks think believe, it's thinking, but what does aman actually mean? It's used a few times in the scriptures. It says Abraham believed in the Holy One. The word is aman, and he reckoned it to him for righteousness. So aman, this word, which we translate as believe, is a key, isn't it, to enter the kingdom of Jehovah. So are they similar? Aman and believe, are they similar? What do you reckon? The actual truth of the matter is no, not at all. Because the English idea of believing, that's something that your mind does. But the Hebrew verb aman is not based upon thoughts at all, or opinions or ideas. It's based in and dependent upon working together in harmony, the heart, the will, the mind and the soul. See, the Hebrew mindset, you don't separate these things out. That's just Greek thinking with this dualism. There's your soul, which is your thinking and your emotions, and there's your body, which is a bit no, that doesn't work for a Hebrew mindset. It's all one. Remember we said the idea of peace, shalom, is wholeness. You don't have wholeness if you separate things up. It doesn't work. It just compartmentalising your life is completely not the way to do things. And there's a pictograph that comes from looking at what the words are. You've got an aleph, which represents Jehovah, a mem, which is a flowing wave, it means carrying an object to the shore, and a nun sophet. This is in Aman, which is a representation of the Messiah. If you put the first two letters together, you get the word for mother. So actually, if you look at it, what you're actually doing in believing Aman is you're actually impregnating yourself with the word of God, which is the Messiah, isn't it? Because he is the Torah made flesh. So you bring into full birth the word of God. That's what it means to believe, to take it on board and to nurture and to grow and to mother the word of God. That's a much better picture than, oh yeah, I believe in God, which, just a thought pattern that happens. Now, notice as well, I'm not going to dwell on these because I know it's getting late, but notice that when it's talking about Caleb, it says that he followed Jehovah wholeheartedly. Now that's part of the Shema, isn't it? That's how we're to follow the Lord. We're never to do it. Go on. We're supposed to be, whoa, this is it? Yeah, oh, I'm up for this. And we're supposed to be like that the whole time. Now, there's another key phrase in this, and it's regarding the children who were under 20 at the time of the sin of the spies. Moses said to them, you will have possession of the land. This is something, the word that's used is yerash, means to inherit and enjoy the benefits of something which you didn't do any work for. Sounds a little bit like grace, doesn't it? Sounds a bit like the favour, the unmerited favour that the Lord gives to us. And we have to ask ourselves, what's the right reaction to it? What's always the right reaction to that? There's only one right reaction. Thankfulness, gratitude, humility, and in respect of what you've been given, generosity to others. Now, he says in Deuteronomy 1:43, he says, you wouldn't shema, you wouldn't trust and obey the Lord your God. Instead, you rebelled against the Lord's order. You took matters into your own hands and went up into the hill country. I just thought it was interesting that took matters into your own hands. The word, we're presumptuous. The word in Hebrew is zud, and it means literally to cook or make a meal. And it basically implies trying to create something by yourself. Are you with me? And it's been shown to mean acting arrogantly and in a show of self-sufficiency. We're never to act in that manner. We're always to recognise our need for our Creator. And there's another phrase, you've been going around this mountain long enough, which we'll just go back to. And it comes from the Hebrew word savav, which basically means to move in a circle, repeat a cycle numerous times without making progress. And we know that the Hebraic lifestyle is all about doing things in cycles. But the cycles that we go into, they're not supposed to lead nowhere. We're supposed to be learning and growing. So bear that in mind. Sometimes, we do. If we lose our passion, we can just do things and it becomes monotonous and it doesn't get us anywhere. It's pointless. The Lord doesn't really like that. Now, let's move on to, I think we're up to verse 8 here. It says, and when we passed by from our brethren, the children of Esau, which dwelt in Seir, through the way of the plain from Elath and from Ezibon-Gaba, we turned and passed by the way of the wilderness of Moab. And Jehovah said unto me, distress not the Moabites, neither contend with them in battle, for I will not give thee of their land for a possession, because I have given Ar unto the children of Lot for a possession. The Emmons dwelt therein in times past, a great people, and many, and tall as the Anakims, which also were accounted giants as the Anakims, but the Moabites called them Emins. The Horims also dwelt in Seir before time, but the children of Esau succeeded them when they had destroyed them from before them, and dwelt in their stead, as Israel did unto the land of his possession, which Jehovah gave unto them. Now rise up, said I, and get you over the brook Zered. We went over the brook Zered, and the space in which we came from Kadesh Barnea until we were come over the brook Zered was 38 years, until all the generation of the men of war were wasted out from among the host, as Jehovah swore unto them. For indeed the hand of Jehovah was against them to destroy them from among the host until they were consumed. So it came to pass, when all the men of war were consumed and dead from among the people, that Jehovah spake unto me, saying, Thou art to pass over through Ar, the coast of Moab, this day. And when thou comest nigh over against the children of a man, distress them not, nor meddle with them, for I will not give thee of the land of the children of Ammon any possession, because I have given it unto the children of Lot for a possession. So he's not only planned out where we're to live, he's planned out who our neighbours are to be as well. Now, what's worth bearing in mind is that Israel was merely the nation chosen by Jehovah to serve as his witness along with creation. And it was always designed as, being a light to all the nations, because it says, doesn't it, through you all the families of the earth shall be blessed. And bear in mind as well, this is not an elitist thing, because when he came out of Egypt, it was with a mixed multitude. But worth noting here is that, notice that Jehovah is not about to start breaking any promises, even if it would have been convenient for Israel. He just doesn't do it. He's promised this land to Esau and to Lot, and nothing's going to change that, because his promises don't change. His promises stand. He's faithful to every single one of his covenants, every single one. And for these people who say, oh, Israel's done away, it's the church now. Hang on a minute, this isn't the God that I know, this isn't Jehovah of the scriptures. I don't think so. And it's worth bearing in mind as well. In Galatians 3:15, it says this, Galatians 3:15, sorry. It says, Brethren, I speak after the manner of men, though it be but a man's covenant, yet if it be confirmed, no man disannulleth or addeth thereto. Likewise, that's a man's covenant. Jehovah's covenants, you don't replace them, you don't supersede them with any other covenant that he's made. They're all permanent covenants, and they're all designed to work perfectly together. There's no, forget that one now. It doesn't work like that. But we won't labour on that point, because we all know that thing. Verse 20 says, That also was accounted a land of giants. Giants dwelt therein in old time, and the Ammonites called them Zumans. A great people, and many and tall as the Anakims. But Jehovah destroyed them before them, and they succeeded them, and dwelt in their stead. As he did to the children of Esau, which dwelt in Seir, when he destroyed the Horims from before them, and they succeeded them, and dwelt in their stead, even unto this day. And the Avims which dwelt in Hazarim, even unto Azaz, the Caphatims which came forth out of the Caphtor, destroyed them and dwelt in their stead. Worth noting here that when he promised the land to Edom and the land he promised to Lot, he actually went before them nations, and he actually, by his own presence, enabled them to wipe out and drive out all the giants. So he didn't do that for Israel, he did that for the nations. Bear that in mind. If he's going to do that for Esau, and he's going to do that for Lot, what's he going to do to the very people that he calls his own treasured possession? He's done that for the nations, never mind his own treasured possession people. He should really have got the message. Verse 24 says, Rise ye up, take your journey, and pass over the river Arnon, and behold, I have given into thine hand Sihon the Amorites, king of Heshbon, and his land. Begin to possess it, and contend with him in battle. This day will I begin to put the dread of thee and the fear of thee upon the nations that are under the whole heaven, who shall hear report of thee, and shall tremble and be in anguish because of thee. And I sent messengers out of the wilderness of Kedemoth unto Sihon, king of Heshbon, with words of peace, saying, Let me pass through thy land, I will go along by the highway, I will neither turn unto the right hand nor to the left. Thou shalt sell me meat for money, that I may eat, and give me water for money, that I may drink, only I will pass through on my feet. As the children of Esau which dwell in Seir, and the Moabites which dwell in Ar, did unto me, until I shall pass over the Jordan into the land which Jehovah our God giveth us. But Sihon, king of Heshbon, would not let us pass him by, for Jehovah thy God hardened his spirit, and made his heart obstinate, that he might deliver him into thy hand, as appeareth this day. So they offered him words of peace, but obviously absolutely no interest in them at all. Jehovah said unto me, Behold, I have begun to give Sihon and his land before thee. Begin to possess it, that thou mightst inherit his land. Then Sihon came out against us, he and all his people, to fight at Jahaz. Quick note, who are they? Who are these Amorites? Actually in Hebrew known as the Amorite. It's worth bearing in mind that Abraham, Isaac and Jacob were all descendants of Noah's son Shem, and they were blessed. The Amori, on the other hand, are under the curse that Noah spoke over Canaan, because they come from him. Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants he shall be to his brethren. The two don't mix. God's holy people and these people, they just don't mix. Now, the high point of the relationship was when Abraham sojourned in the land, in the plain of Mamre near Hebron. He dwelt alongside the Amorites. That was the high point. The rest of it's not good. Now, these people, they were builders of the ancient city of Babel. Actually, sometimes known in historical accounts as Old Babylonians. The whole idea of this, everybody coming together, they are in fact universalists. They're your New World Order type of people. They were a diverse mixture of peoples from loads of different backgrounds. They wasn't like, these are the Moabites, these are the Midianites. These were like a mixed multitude of people. And as I say, they were known as the Old Babylonians. They were world empire builders. So they were citizens of planet Earth. Now, this is their mentality. They felt free to hate and seek to destroy everybody who wasn't like them. So you can imagine what they thought of God's holy people who want to be set apart people. Hang on, you can't do that. No, you're not like us and you're not going to fit in. Oh no. So basically, we drive them mental. And this very active words of peace, they just see it as weakness and want to completely and utterly destroy it. So if we have a look at it, to a universalist New World Order people such as these, any nation who stands alone and lives apart from the rest of society is a threat which absolutely must be eradicated. We can see it in society, people who want to live alone, people who want to homeschool the kids, who want to kind of opt out. They're portrayed by our society as being weird, to be shunned, dangerous. Let's attack them. We can't let them do this. Are you with me? You've got to be one of us. You've got to be part of it. Otherwise, we're going to make your life miserable. This is the mentality that's prevalent today. So, we repulse these people, by the way. And we're seen by a threat to their worldview, a threat that must be stamped out. And I think if you've studied any of the New World Order quotes, you'd know this. I've put a few down, actually, just might as well read a couple out. This is H.G. Wells. He wrote this in 1939. He says, "Countless people will hate the New World Order and will die protesting against it. When we attempt to evaluate its promise, we have to bear in mind the distress of a generation or so of malcontents, many of them quite gallant and graceful looking people." It's quite sinisterly written, that, isn't it? And just so that you know that this isn't from the Lord, and this is coming from another place. One of our favourites, David Spangler, Director of Planetary Initiative for the United Nations, said, "No one will enter the New World Order unless he or she will make a pledge to worship Lucifer. No one will enter the New Age unless he will take a Luciferian initiation." Now, I'll read one last one. Arthur Schlesinger in Foreign Affairs, 1995. "We are not going to achieve a New World Order without paying for it in blood as well as in words and money." These people are quite prepared to try and wipe out anybody who wants to live set apart, which is a commandment that we're given by the Lord. So let's just move on anyway. It's verse 33. "Jehovah our God delivered him before us, and we smote him and his sons and all his people. And we took all his cities at that time." But when you're reading this, just bear in mind, this is for our benefit that this is written. These Amorites, these universalist New World Order types, right? I believe a lot of this is prophetic for us to look to for the future. "Jehovah our God delivered him before us, we smote him and his sons and all his people, and we took all the cities at the time, and utterly destroyed the men and the women and the little ones of every city. We left none to remain. Only the cattle we took for a prey unto ourselves, and the spoil of the cities which we took, from Arera which is by the brink of the river Arnon, and from the city that is by the river, even unto Gilead. There was not one city too strong for us. Jehovah our God delivered all unto us. Now bear in mind, Jehovah expects us to live peaceably with our neighbours, but he's not really willing to subject us to people who just want to completely and utterly stamp us out and have our total destruction. Because he wants us to exist as a nation set apart, because that's part of his plan for redemption for the world. But these universalists will not accept it. And I reckon that if we choose now to live set apart and holy, this is the decision that we make. Lord, I want to live my life set apart. I want to live my life holy. If we decide that now, I think he'll make a way for us to escape these universalists and New World Order people and enable us to be able to live set apart and holy. But it's if we decide now, as we were talking about the greater Exodus, the people that he takes and he puts in a safe place are those who tremble at his word, those who have respect for his word and follow it and do it. It's those people who say, Lord, the only way I can live in this world is to be set apart. I think that our Creator will honour that. And when they come in and say, no, you can't live, he will make a way for us. That's, that's from what I'm getting from the reading of the scriptures. And what was the key to the victories over these people? It says in 2:33, it says, the Holy One, our God, delivered him over to us. Because these people, they're not just our enemies, they're his enemies. And they only hate us because they hate him. Now that's worth bearing in mind. Now, verse 37 says this, only unto the land of the children of Ammon thou camest not, nor unto any place of the river Jabbok, nor unto the cities in the mountains, nor unto whatsoever Jehovah our God forbade us. Then we turned and went up to the way of Bashan, and Og the king of Bashan came out against us, he and all his people, to battle at Edrei. And Jehovah said unto me, fear him not, for I will deliver him and all his people and his land into thy hand, and thou shalt do unto him as thou didst unto Sihon king of the Amorites, which dwelt at Heshbon. So Jehovah our God delivered into our hands Og also the king of Bashan, and all his people, and we smote him until none was left to him remaining. We took all his cities at the time, and there was not a city which we took not from them. 80 cities, all the region of Argob, the kingdom of Og in Bashan. All these cities were fenced with high walls, gates and bars, beside unwalled towns a great many, and we utterly destroyed them, as we did unto Sihon king of Heshbon, utterly destroying the men, women and children of every city. But all the cattle and the spoil of the cities we took for a prey to ourselves, and we took at that time out of the hand of the 2 kings of the Amorites the land that was on this side of the Jordan, from the river of Arnon unto Mount Hermon, which Hermon the Sidonians called Sirion, and the Ammonites call it Shinir. All the cities of the plain, and all Gilead, and all Bashan, unto Shalach and Edrei, cities of the kingdom of Og and Bashan. For only Og, king of Bashan, remained of the remnant of giants. Behold, his bedstead was a bedstead of iron. Is it not in Rabbath of the children of Ammon? 9 cubits was the length thereof, and 4 cubits the breadth of it, after the cubit of a man. He was a big fellow. And this land which we possessed at that time from Areh, which is by the river Arnon, and half Mount Gilead, and the cities thereof, gave I unto the Reubenites and to the Gadites. So Moses, he's giving him a pep talk, isn't he? He's saying, look what the Lord's done for us already. Look at these amazing victories. Verse 13 says, and the rest of Gilead and all Bashan, being the kingdom of Og, gave I unto the half tribe of Manasseh, all the region of Argob with all Bashan, which was called the land of giants. Yeah, we can recall the fact that the heads of some of the tribes came to Moses and said, please don't take us over the Jordan, we like it here. Because the lusts of their eyes distract them, causing them to want what they saw instead of what the Lord had promised for them. Now verse 14 says, and there's a mention of a character here, and I can't go into the full history of him, but it is fascinating, isn't it? It's amazing. He's Jair or Yair, the son of Manasseh, took, in verse 14, took all the country of Argob unto the coast of Geshuri and Machathi, and called them after his own name, Bashan, Havoth Jair, unto this day. So, just quickly, who is he? What's going on? And why is it we mentioning his activities? It turns out that if we read Judges 10:3-4, it says, Arose Jair the Gileadite, and he judged Israel 22 years. He had 30 sons who rode on 30 donkey coats. They had 30 cities which are called Havot Yair to this day, which are in the land of Gilead. So, just he's a character worth noting, and I really wish I had ages to go into the details of it. But what he actually is he's an adopted son of Manasseh, but he's actually from the tribe of Judah. And there's a big story going on here, which we go into another day, and it is good, isn't it? But I think it's interesting. When he says he took the land, he uses the same word, lokar, or lakach, as you'd use for taking a wife. But he took this place and he made it his own. And he changed the name of it, which I thought was great, because Og, when he controlled it, it was called Fruit Pile of Clods, or Fruitful Pile of Clods. I just thought that's a really lovely name. It's got a ring to it, hasn't it? But he changed its name, and he changed it to Small Clusters of Houses That Yah Has Enlightened. It's a bit better, isn't it? So just know this: he was a judge for 22 years. There was no war when he was a judge, and when he was a judge, there was actually none of the nonsense that usually went on. There was no idolatry or anything like that. He had 30 sons. It says they all rode on the coat of a donkey, which is a messianic reference, right? And they all ruled over a city in Israel. And when he was buried buried in a place called Kamon, which means raising or rising, but you might call the place resurrection. So everything about this character is pretty cool. So there's one little lesson you can get from him, because I know we're running late. Because of the choices of his ancestors, right, he couldn't be in Israel, because he was just outside, wasn't he? Yeah. So he wasn't in Israel. Now, we're not in Israel, are we? But he set a really good example. I just think it's a really good way of looking at it. Wherever we live, we should take the fruitful piles of clods of where we live and turn the fruitful piles of clods, it's quite hard to say that, into clusters of houses that are enlightened by Yah. That's what we should do. I'm not even going to try and say it again. And then maybe our place of death and burial will be a place named resurrection. So verse 15 says, And I gave Gilead unto Machir. Wow, even their names, I can't go into it, so I haven't got time. Verse 16 says, And unto the Reubenites and unto the Gadites I gave from Gilead, even unto the river Arnon, half the valley and the border, even unto the river Jabbok, which is the border of the children of Ammon. The plain also in Jordan, and the coast thereof, from Chinnereth even unto the sea of the plain, even the salt sea, under Ashdod, eastward. And I commanded you at that time, saying, Jehovah your God hath given you this land to possess it. You shall pass over armed before your brethren, the children of Israel, all that are meet for the war. But your wives and your little ones and your cattle, for I know that you have much cattle, shall abide in your cities which I have given you, until Jehovah hath given rest unto your brethren as well as unto you, and unto they also possess the land which Jehovah your God hath given them beyond the Jordan. And then shall ye return every man unto his possession which I have given you. And I commanded Joshua at that time, saying, now this is something, just this little bit is just worth letting it sink in, really letting it sink in. Thine eyes have seen all that Jehovah your God hath done unto these two kings. Right, they represent the enemies basically that are coming our way in this period of history. It says, So shall Jehovah do unto all the kingdoms whither thou passest. Ye shall not fear them, for Jehovah your God, he shall fight for you. I like that. Now, Ecclesiastes, just to back this up, 1:9 says, The thing that had been is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun. So, when we read this pep talk that Moses is giving to these people, bear in mind he's in the land, the plain of Moab, where there was false worship, idol worship, all the nonsense that went on. right? And there's all these people standing on the rubble of all these false religions, and they're getting this talk. He's reminding them of the victories. He's reminding them of the mistakes, saying, don't repeat them. But he's reminding them of great victories. And these people are preparing themselves to go into the promised land. It's it's where we're at, really, isn't it? Kind of in our history. We're just at the brink of going in to possess the promised land, because the end of the age is coming. We've got the likes of the universalists and the New World Order type people, the ones who want to build Babylon and the Tower of Babel. We've got them in our midst, and they're growing and growing, and they seem powerful, and this seems like it's all two giants. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? And it's just all this has been written down. For thine eyes have seen all that Jehovah your God hath done unto these two kings. We've seen what he's able to do to these people who would try and take his people, his set apart people, and destroy them. We know how he reacts to this. And it says here, so shall Jehovah do unto all the kingdoms whither thou passest. You shall not fear them. We're not to be afraid. For Jehovah your God shall fight for you. What a wonderful thing. Jehovah your God shall fight for you. I'd rather have that than have Putin say, all of the Russian armies with you, sir. That's like, okay, nice one, but actually I'm doing okay anyway, because the creator of the universe says he's going to fight for us. Wow, excellent. So what are we going to do? Are we going to play the victim? Are we going to go, it's because he hates us, it's because he hates us that it's all gone mad in the world and they're going to make it difficult for us? Or are we going to say, hang on a minute, he's with us, he's given us the land to possess. What's the big deal? Come on, let's not sing the song of he hates us, and let's sing the other song, he's redeemed us, he goes before us, he fights for us. There's nothing for us to worry about, is there? Not really. So we'll finish on that, and I just pray that the Lord helps us to be overcomers and not victims. Yeah, there you go.